We have a few sponsors for this event, and so the first is RENCI itself. So I'm going to hand the microphone to Ashok and have him introduce himself and say all the things.
Okay, thank you. So I am Ashok Krishnamurthy. I'm the Deputy Director for RENCI, one of the sponsors for this user group meeting. As has been mentioned a couple of times, the relationship of RENCI and the iRODS consortium goes back a long way. Ever since the consortium started, RENCI was one of the founding members, continues to be the founding member, etc. And the last user group meeting last year was at RENCI. I don't know if many of you attended. Thank you all for coming here, by the way. And I especially want to thank everybody at Utrecht University for the fantastic arrangements. We know how much work it is, and we really thank you. And it shows us that it's possible for us to come here and hold these meetings, and that's fantastic. Just wanted to say a couple things. As I said, RENCI is part of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. RENCI is a research computing institute there. All the iRODS consortium folks like Jason Terrell, et cetera, are all actually RENCI and thus University of North Carolina Chapel Hill employees. And we have great faith in where the consortium is and where the consortium is going. Besides being, like I said, members, we continue to invest in the iRODS consortium. I would say that since about the start of the consortium, RENCI has invested over $3 million over and above our membership fees. We continue to invest, we continue to believe, and the proof of the fact that we are, doing the right thing is all the people here and the tremendous growth that we are seeing in the consortium, in the use of iRODS across the world, literally. And under the leadership of Jason and Terrell, I think that the path is accelerating even further, I think, or even faster. And I am looking forward to the next user group meeting and all the new and exciting things that are happening. Meanwhile, happy to answer any questions about RENCI or anything else. I don't want to take up any more time, but let you get your coffee break. Any questions?
I was going to ask, like, do you have a beat or is there a concept forming about maybe the next stage of CI research, like that NSF is looking at, or what do you think those sort of challenges you see are
That's a good question. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you the answer, but I'll tell you what I see is in the United States, open CI research, if you leave out the DOE labs who do their own thing for their own internal consumption, open scientific academic CI research is mostly sponsored by the National Science Foundation. And in particular, there's one division in the National Science Foundation which is now called, it's gone through many different names. The current name is the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure, OAC. Okay? And it's one of the, so cyber infrastructure in and of itself is of no value. Cyber infrastructure is only of value if you put it to use in doing some kind of exciting science, in this particular case, in different areas. And I think you'll hear a number of examples of that. And I think that there's recognition that more and more high-end science requires high-end cyber infrastructure. There's no question about it. So the Office of Advanced Cyber Infrastructure is supposed to make that happen in the United States at least. The question then is, the tension, if you will, I wouldn't say the question, the tension is each of the domain sciences, whether it's biology or geoscience or physics or chemistry, they of course want to do their own research, but they also understand that cyber infrastructure is essential to do their own research. So how are they going to adjust their budgets to say, this is how much cyber infrastructure we need to do the science, domain science research we shall do. I am positive about the direction. I think that there is absolute recognition. I think that the other thing that is happening, which is I think very good, and Raja just heard yesterday from NSF, right, about an award, which is there is now more and more of a feeling that we need to train a lot of people about cyber infrastructure and what cyber infrastructure can do. And I think that getting the word out and seeing the results that it can bear is tremendous. I work with different domain scientists trying to convince them that they need to build scalable infrastructure for their science work. And you know, I can see, I live this tension all the time about, you know, whether they should do this or not. I don't know if that answers your questions. Anything else? Yeah. 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 I think, yeah, I think it's a tremendous problem in the U.S. also, that there's funding for collecting the data, and there's typically some funding that is associated with making the data available to use for some duration, and then what happens afterwards is a major problem. Should it be the responsibility of the investigators and the institutions to take that on once the sponsor is done with it? Maybe so, but I don't see any institution stepping up and saying, yes, we'll do it, unless they believe there's long-term value in preserving the data and continuing with it. The National Institutes of Health, now I'm changing from the National Science Foundation to the National Institutes of Health. NIH collects far more data than NSF does. You know, every biological research project involves some collection of data. And in the past, the way NIH has tried to preserve data is they fund what are called these data coordinating centers, where everybody who are funded on a project in a given topic deposit data, things like the protein data bank, et cetera, okay, which then continue to be funded. But that only captures a small portion. There's a large portion that's still lost at the end of the project. So what NIH seems to be doing is to have this notion of what they call the data commons. So they, for example, right now have about a number of pilot projects which are really with some of the large commercial vendors like Google and you know, Amazon, et cetera, where the idea is that you create some more longer-term sustainable infrastructure into which data is going to be deposited, and somehow that infrastructure will be funded and kept going independent of the individual projects that are producing the data and using the data. But that's an experiment that is in its very, very early stages for NIH. Don't know exactly how that's going to play out. For example, right now, if I have a project and I say I want to put it in one of the NIH data commons, I can't, because it's on a purely invitational experimental basis with the idea that at some point it's going to be open to all investigators. I don't know how long it'll be before we get there. So, I don't know that answers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Very good, excellent. See, yeah. Wonderful. See, there's current information. That's why we have these gatherings. Fantastic. Yeah, I would like to talk to you too, see what's going on. Anything else? Sugar.